Returning to the Book of I, Ahlummannotti, I had picked up knowledge at a very young age, and he held his knowledge. And he had vowed to himself that he would back up that knowledge with truth, and in doing so, he would gain much vision, which he did. And he soon became, based on knowledge, the commander, if you will, of an empire that was ultimately lost under the hands of destruction. And he vowed to somehow protect his people. And so the knowledge that he picked up under his ancestors' hands at a very young age was that of the Onondagua. And he wanted to know what happened to that robe. What happened to those people? He found evidence and traces that they did exist, and he was able to read their code and decipher their writings, and he wanted to know what happened to them. And so, with knowledge and truth, much vision comes through. And when he would meet with the elders, and they would have discussions about their individually and collectively and combined visions of what was about to happen to their people, he carried forth his knowledge from a younger day, and he asked them for permission to cover the people in the belief of the Onondagua. And in doing so, he started to share those beliefs. And the more information that he gave them, the more knowledge he gave them, the more they wanted to agree. And they did. They ultimately did agree that their people had to be covered under the belief of the Onondagua. It was the only way that they could survive. And so the visions that came forth that were clear was they didn't have much time to prepare for what was coming through. And there were a lot of them that were coming through with the same thoughts and ideas of destroying them entirely. So they began to institute the ways of the Onondagua, and in doing so, I sectioned off a very large piece of land, and he placed the elders that he had already shared the knowledge with on that land, and he labeled those people as the Onondagua. And the changes that went into effect with the people were that they needed to stop carrying forth new life. It was too much of a risk for what was coming through, and they needed for them to hold back on carrying through new life. So any man and woman carrying knowledge and categorized as such that already had children or didn't have children were forbidden to have more children. And if they were ever caught engaging in activities that carried forth new life, they were separated and the man would be locked up. And the same thing went for boys and girls carrying less knowledge. If they engaged in activities, there was almost like a stepping stone that where they would be separated, not by a couple feet, but quite a distance in it. They'd be brought back together and tested, and if they engaged again, the boy would get locked up. So it caused friction within the house, but it was a needed change because of what was coming through. And they saw bloodshed. So to have newborn infants, toddlers, children that still needed assistance from their mothers and their fathers to get caught up in that mess, they didn't want to see that. They didn't want to put new life through that type of harm and, have that be part of their newly created life experiences. And so they, were pretty stringent about that, and it caused a lot of friction within the house. But it did happen, and in current day, people who are known as the Onondagua, that's where they originated from I, from the decisions made by I, Ahlummannotti, the protector of the house.